Before Rome, before Greece, before the great empires most people know today, there was an empire that changed the course of human history forever. Over 4,000 years ago, in a region known as Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, a new kind of civilization began to take shape. This was a harsh world. Vast stretches of dry land, scorching heat, and unpredictable conditions. But cutting through that landscape were two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. And those rivers made life possible. They brought water to the soil, allowing early farmers to grow crops, raise animals, and settle in one place. Over time, small communities grew into villages, and villages grew into cities. These cities were some of the first in human history. Built from mud brick, shaped by hand, and constantly rebuilt as they weathered time and nature. Life here was simple but not easy. People worked the land, crafted tools, traded goods, and slowly built systems that allowed society to function. But each city stood on its own. Each had its own rulers, its own identity, its own conflicts. And for centuries, that's how the world remained. Until something changed. For the first time, one ruler would do what no one had done before. Unite these cities, not as allies, but under a single authority. This was the rise of the Akkadian Empire. Under its rule, power was no longer limited to a single city. It stretched across vast distances, connecting people, land, and resources under one system. This was something entirely new. Not just a kingdom, but an empire. Armies marched across the land not just to defend territory but to expand it. Organized, disciplined, and driven by ambition. Cities that once stood independent were now part of something greater. Trade routes expanded. Communication improved. And for the first time, large populations were governed under centralized control. But power alone was not enough. To manage an empire, you needed structure, records, systems. And that's where one of humanity's greatest innovations took shape: writing. Using clay tablets and simple tools, scribes pressed symbols into wet surfaces, recording transactions, laws, and daily life. This system, known as cuneiform, allowed information to be preserved and shared in ways never seen before. It turned memory into record, and record into control. This was the foundation of administration, government, and long-term organization. And its impact would last for thousands of years. The Akkadian Empire was more than a collection of cities. It was a turning point, a moment where human society shifted from scattered communities to structured civilization. It introduced the idea that one ruler could control vast lands, that systems could manage entire populations, and that power could extend beyond borders. Everything that came after, the empires of Egypt, Rome, Persia, all followed a path that began here. This was not just history. This was the beginning of empire itself. And even though the Akkadian Empire would eventually fade, its influence never truly disappeared. Because from this point forward, the world would never be the same. This is where empires began.